programs to train because it's the closest to the story, to the script. I enjoy writing myself. So it's definitely become a really nice tool for me to have the knowledge of. And it really, there's a lot in the program, but it really isn't that difficult to get it to work for you. So let's start back here. Faye, what brings you into class today?
So I was in Lagos, Nigeria, but I came to LA, at East LA, where I'm studying.
Okay.
Back from Nigeria, but the industry back home is kind of changing. You need to put a lot in the place to make a good living easy.
Right.
The industry is totally different from what you have here. So I tried to become 2D into directing bucket list, so I came to UCLA, and I have tried to use scheduling a bit, but I'm not like good at it.
Okay.
Then I just was checking up. I was wondering if the headquarters was in LA. Then I found this place. And I found that they had classes. And I called them. It's free.
Isn't that great?
Okay. Welcome.
And I was back several more times.
What's that?
I was back several more times.
Oh, okay. Yeah, absolutely. You're more than welcome. It's free. Right.
Yeah. My name's Leslie, and I'm trying to get into the business, but I'm checking out all the different software because I have an accounting background. It's a small accounting background, mostly management, but I think I might be getting into payroll. That's why I wanted to learn the E's, right? Does that have payroll or something?
Well,
I don't remember.
As far as like payroll accounting, you mean, you would either, the Ease accounting is really just Ease's version of Vista. Okay. So they both achieve the same thing. So yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be a bad idea to learn both.
Yeah, I just want to learn as much as I can. I need something more interesting, like I was saying the other day, than what I've been doing. But I'm unemployed right now, so I have time to take these wonderful free classes. Thank you.
Yeah, not a problem. Welcome.
Hey, Kristen, I was previously a finance manager in construction.
Okay.
And so I'm just trying to go into production accounting, so everything I can learn.
Yeah. Why not? Welcome. Yeah. And on the phones, do we have Victor?
Yes. Yeah, my name is Victor. I'm a location. I've been doing location accounting for a while, but I'm just taking the classes again, just in case of working in town, to hone my skills, as I would like to say. And I've been working in the business about 30 years now. I started out as a PA and worked my way through various departments, including transpo and production, and been in accounting since 1997, and really seem to enjoy it. And that's it. I like the software. It's always fun to learn new things, and that's why I'm taking this course.
All right. Well, welcome.
Thank you.
And do we have Jose on the line? Jose, do you have a microphone, or can you only chat? Looks like we're stuck with chat, right? Okay. All right. That's all right. Jose, if you do have a question, feel free to chat in. I will keep my chat window open. So if you have a question, just feel free to chat in. Or there's a little function to where you can raise your hand. Feel free to do that as well, and I'll do my best to keep an eye out for it, okay? Perfect. All right, let's get started. Our agenda, I would like to go over with you. We'll do an introduction. It's very short. I'll just kind of introduce tiny tidbits about the scheduling program. And then we're going to go right into breaking down a script as if we had a script and we already marked it up. Now, I'm going to do things a little differently today. What I'd like to do is first I'm going to show you the finished product. I'm going to show you a schedule. And we're going to take a look at that, and I'm going to point out a couple things, maybe ask you guys a couple questions, to see if you can point some things out that you may know of. But after we look at that, then we're going to start from scratch, kind of go all the way back to the beginning of the process and look at where do we start to achieve that schedule. First we'll go through a window called production info. It's just like the budget info where you name the picture. It's really basic, but important nonetheless. Then we're going to go right into breakdown sheets. We're going to add elements. I'll show you how to break the script down into the program, and then we'll look at a couple windows. Category Manager, which allows you to add categories in order, like say if you have grips, which you totally should, but the category isn't there, you can add that category. Then we'll look at Element Manager, and when we get to that part, we're actually going to switch over to a demo, to like a finished, I guess you could say, broken down script, and I'm going to show you how to clean up like spelling errors and merge elements and stuff like that. I call that the cleanup portion. So this is all data entry, and then once you get here and you finish cleanup, which makes everything look nice and neat, then we actually go into the scheduling part. So my spiel is, you're not going to solve problems when you're entering your script. You don't need to worry about solving issues with schedules and locations. All you're doing at that point is entering data. It's just data entry. It's the grunt work. Then, when you get into the strip board where the scheduling happens, that's where your problem solving happens. That's where you look at the best way to kind of schedule something. And then we'll look at printing, and these additional features I'll get to if we have time. Sometimes, depending on the questions and depending on the pace of the class, we may not have time for these, but these aren't features that are required in order for you to use the program. They're just kind of like bonus features. And then after that, that's it. Now, my introduction to scheduling is essentially that in order for you to budget your money, you have to first budget your time. It's darn near impossible to understand how much you're going to need to, like, you can't budget for how many days if you don't know how many days you're going to shoot, right? So, really, this class should come in the morning, and then budgeting should follow it. But since budgeting is our most popular one, we tend to have that in the morning because it's more available for people. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Any questions so far? Okay. So, I'll get into that later. I'm going to show you something. You don't have to follow along with me, but I'm going to open up a file really quick. I'm going to show you strip board. Okay. So this is what a strip board looks like. Movie Magic scheduling is actually based off of the old school way of doing things, where these strips were literally cut out of colored pieces of paper, and the first AD would actually write down scene numbers, accordion binder of just tons of strips. Essentially, that's what Movie Magic scheduling does for you. It gives you the ability to do that digitally, which is much easier to work with. So all of this information comes from each scene on the script. I wanted to point out these strips. The different colors that you see mean different types of scenes, whether it's interior, exterior, day or night. As you can see, the white strips here are interior day. The yellow strips are exterior day. Blue is exterior night, and green is interior night. Anytime you see a red strip, that just means that that's the strip that I've selected, highlighted. These black bars are one of two things. Anytime it says end of day number 1 or 2, that's a day break, which is what's really making your schedule. So when you see a strip here that has a date, a total number of pages and estimated time, what that's doing is it's totaling all of the strips between the last day break. So day 1 here, where it says Tuesday, June 17th, it's totaling all of these strips estimated times, and it's totally that you anyone has seen or recognized. Have you guys seen strips before? Have you seen schedules? Okay.
Just a question. Are you
Sure.
they call it DOOD?
Day out of day.
It's exactly this one?
This is the schedule. This is your strip board. Day out of days is basically a report
Mm-hmm.
that will show you when people or items that you're renting will start, work, and finish.
Okay.
So your day to days is literally telling you, if I'm an actor, it's going to tell me which day I first start shooting and which days I actually work and then when I finish. That's all the day out of days does. It's really beneficial to use day out of days. It's called a dude report, sometimes they call it, to see those big scheduling gaps. Because if you have someone like an A-list celebrity, like Tom Cruise or something, and he starts work on Monday and then doesn't work Tuesday or Wednesday, and then works Thursday and Friday, that's a big problem. Because Tuesday and Wednesday, you may have to contractually pay him for those days. Otherwise, you're violating his contract. He can just go sign another contract and work on another film. So those are called hold days.
Okay.
So the day of the days actually shows you the lifetime of a person's work on the set. They use it for sets sometimes. They also use it for vehicles that they have to rent.
And can you just say again the color? I remember the green, for example, I think it's outside.
Yeah, so you can actually see right here it says interior and then night. And we're going to go through this.
Okay.
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to show you a finished product. So what we're going to do is we're going to basically imagine that we have a script. And at this point, you should have read the script, maybe more than once, know the story, and you can visualize each scene. And what I recommend is to take the script, print it up, and actually mark the script up with literally everything you might think of that might be needed for that scene. So not only are you marking, oh, it's an interior day, oh, it's a specific set, what's the scene number? You're marking what props are needed. You're marking what kind of additional equipment might be needed. Stunts. If the scene is like wet streets, you're going to need a water truck. So what I mean by marking up the script is you're doing critical thinking, and you're thinking, what isn't written here that I'm going to need to schedule that day? Because the script isn't going to tell you need a water truck, right? So that's where you're at. Before you even get into the program, you've already broken your script down by marking it up. And I usually use like a specific color for props. I use a specific color for actors and stuff like that. Cool? All right. So this script, it's not really realistic because we wouldn't shoot a 5-hour day, a 30-minute day, and then a 13-hour day, But if this were realistic, we look down at the bottom, that's 32 days of shooting. Obviously, we can make that much less if we were doing 12-hour days every day. But this is what we're going to achieve. By the end of this class, you'll know how to get this. And actually, something even slightly better looking. I like my format better. I wanted to point out a couple things here. These are all functions that have to do with the strip board. These are changing the layout to show different information. These are different boards that you can look at. And then you have the ability to have multiple calendars. Maybe you're shooting a 5-day week or a 6-day week and you don't know yet. Or maybe you're still in negotiation as to when you're going to start the shoot, whether it's going to be in March or whether it's going to be in April. You might have some negotiating or actors to figure out. So let's rewind, and I'm actually going to ask all of you to hit New, and you're going to see a window that gives you 2 options, default and French. We're not going to do it in French today, so we're going to do just default. Tu parlez-vous français? Okay. I only know a little bit. So when you hit New and you open up a default template, you're basically starting from scratch. Yes, you can import Final Draft Docs. I'm not going to show you how. Well, I can show you how to do it. It's very easy. You simply go File, Import, and then you find a final draft file, but I don't recommend it, especially if you're new to the program. The reason being is you're still going to have to go through every single sheet. And by that I mean, you remember all those strips we just saw? Each one of those is an entire sheet like this. So all of this data gets squished down into a strip. And that's how you achieve your strip work. You're breaking down every scene. So let's start with these elements. So this section up here at the top, I call this my built-in categories. This section right here. We can't really change these categories. The ones down here we totally can change. But I'm going to start up here where it says scenes. Notice where it says sheet 1. That just means this is our first entry. By the way, if you guys want cookies or water or soda, coffee, there's some back there. Help yourself. Did we have a chat, I think? Nope. Okay. So scenes or scenes. Literally, if you're starting at the very beginning, it's scene 1, right? Notice how sometimes it may be plural. That does happen sometimes when you have like an intercutting kind of a scene where it's like opens with Will, and Will picks up the phone and he calls Christelle. It cuts to Christelle. Christelle picks up her phone, and it's back and forth. I'm going to shoot all of my lines at once, and then Christelle's going to shoot all of hers at once. But the way we would break that down is actually a little different. Sometimes you might be involved with the schedule before a script supervisor is even hired, so it's up to you how to dictate that naming convention. So if we have scene 1, interior, Will's house, day, that's scene 1, and then it, Will picks up the phone, calls Christelle. Scene 2, interior. Am I spelling this right? With a little Y?
No, you're good.
Christelle's house. It's getting sloppy. Day, and then it cuts back to Will. Interior Will. That's scene 3. It's not 1B because that's shot, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4. You just keep going. The reason why we want to do that is because on the script it will be much easier to identify. If a script supervisor is already dictated that this is scene A1, A2, or A1, B1, C1, then you could do it that way if they've already dictated that. So this scene would be scene 1. I'll just keep it simple. But if you did have multiple scenes, it would be 1, 3, 5. Make sense? Okay. Yeah.
If you are identifying someone in the kitchen,
Yeah.
so and the shot comes back first, I think that's interior.
Yeah.
Maybe a casting.
Yes, exactly. In a car or looking through a window, you're inside the house, but you're looking through the window, or vice versa. Absolutely. Great example. Is that what you were going to say, the car or something? Yeah. So I'm just going to use interior for this. And then set, this literally comes from the scene heading. So if this is Will's house, I would write Will's house, but is it Will's house living room? Yes. The reason why it's not just Will's house is because it's an interior. If I'm inside Will's house, where am I? I would only use just Will's house if it was an exterior. But then again, that comes from the script a lot, so the writer may not write properly. Now when I hit tab or enter, I wanted to point something out to you. I just created a set. As soon as I type and then hit tab or enter, Will's house is now living room is now selectable moving forward on every sheet. So I don't have to keep creating the set every time. I can just start tone. I didn't overwrite the set. I created a new one, which is important. Also, keep the set names all caps lock, capitalized letters, to mimic the script. Then we have day, night, morning, and evening. We all know what that means. If it's an interior day, I would choose interior day. And then, Christelle, to kind of go back to one of your questions, the colors. If it's interior day, this strip will be white. If I chose night, notice how the strip changes green. And then if I go over here and change interior to exterior, it's also going to change the color. So there's, different variations of interior, exterior, day, night that will give you different colors. Okay. Does everyone understand that so far?
I'm not getting color on mine, is that just on yours? We get the color on the strip.
Do you have interior day? Yeah, that's white. So switch day to night.
Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah. So if it just stays white, it means you've chosen interior and day. Yep. No, it's
I
okay.
know you said that already.
It's all right. It's a new horizon. Okay, so I wanted to actually make a note about day, night, and morning, evening. Day and night, if it's a scene, try to keep your scenes either day or night. Avoid doing morning or evening. If you have, unless it's like the director or cinematographer or someone is adamant about saying, no, this has to be a morning shot, that light is incredibly hard to achieve without it actually being morning or evening. So it's like that magic hour. You guys all know what magic hour is. So magic hour lasts 30 to 40 minutes. By the time you're ready to set the shot is set up and ready to go, you have maybe 15 minutes to shoot that scene. Incredibly difficult to schedule. So try to avoid it. Try to say, does this have to be, dusk, or can it be day? And if they're flexible, just do it day or night. Yeah, question?
Wasn't there something that was shot to Celine Madrigal?
Oh, yes, Days of Heaven. Yeah. Yeah, Richard Gere. Oh my gosh. Terrence Malick, I think. Yeah. It took him 8 years to edit, and yeah, and yeah, just to edit. Yeah, and he halfway through, not even like within the first couple of weeks of shooting, they just threw the script away, and they're like, let's just improv the rest of the movie. It's an incredible movie. I mean, if you watch it, it's beautiful. Days of Heaven. Yeah, it really is beautiful. But they let the actors do whatever they wanted.
Really?
It was a nightmare.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Because we had to set up in the wee hours and wait for the sunrise.
Yeah.
Shoot and wrap.
Yeah.
Then set up in the afternoon, wait for sunset, shoot, wrap.
Wow.
It was literally, they had an hour every day.
Every day.
Yeah. It's so silly.
I think it's something we're going to have more and more. I was on the set, and more they're using natural light.
Yeah.
Something that is back. And because more and more are doing it. The Revenants have done it. It was an HBO one. They're doing it this way. I mean, it's like it's the trend.
Yeah. Well, Magic Hour really is beautiful. It really is incredible. If you ever get a chance to do photography or shoot yourself during that time, it really is incredible lighting. You can't make that lighting. Even in post, like all the different, you can't mimic it. It's just the natural world, the wonder of the world, So, of course, very artistic and very passionate directors and actors even really want that. The Revenant was insane to shoot, from what I hear, and no one wants to ever do anything like that again. It was a great movie, though. Very good movie.
I didn't see that one.
It's really good. You'll feel cold. You'll feel depressed. But there's so much symbolism in that movie that I keep thinking about it after I've seen it. So it's a good movie. But yeah, they had Magic Hour in that movie a couple times, and it's like, oh my gosh, is this real? So it doesn't even feel real sometimes. But yeah, it's interesting. I think it's been a trend. Every film student wants to shoot in magic hour, because it's so sought after. But as a first AD, you're going to want to limit magic hour as much as you can. Just get day or night, because it's so much easier. And you can shoot day for night and night for day, easy. You just block out the sun or block out, especially if it's interior, block out the windows, you're good. If it's, exterior, or if it's day for night or night for day, you just blast it with light and you're good. But achieving magic hour, impossible without the actual light. Yeah. I mean, people have tried to do it. It's just impossible. You'd have to use some weird gel, Pages. This means eighths of a page. This does not mean what page number it's on. This means how much of a page does this scene take up. So when you look at a script page and you see the scene is, about this much, that's an eighth of a page. A really easy way to kind of give yourself a visual representation of an eighth of a page is to fold your piece of paper in half, fold it in half again, and then a third time. And that's an eighth of a page, right? So if you see on a script a scene is literally only taking up that much space, you would write up here 1/8. If it's an entire sheet and then an eighth, you would write 1 and 1/8. If it's half of a page, you're not going to write 1/2. It only lets you do the 4/8. You don't break the fraction down. But it's an industry standard. How many eighths of a page are you going to shoot today? That's a big thing. On that note, let's say there's an establishing shot that is literally that much of a page. It says, exterior Will's house day, establishing shot of Will's house. Done. Scene's over, right? And then you have another scene that's an eighth of a page, and it says, exterior Will's house day. Will jumps off the roof of his house into his car explodes, and there's lots of stunts. Both the same amount of a page, but do you think that they take the same amount of time to shoot? Definitely not. So sometimes you may give it a little more weight and say 2/8, and then you're going to end up with more pages than the actual script itself. But that's okay. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. The really defining factor that will make an eighth heavier or lighter is your estimated time. An establishing shot, you don't even need your director there. That's second unit. You can just have, your small crew go off and do it while you're shooting elsewhere. But estimated time will give you the totals on your strips. When you say end of day 1, it's going to total the estimated time and how many pages of all those strips. Does that make sense? Okay.
Question.
Yeah.
How easy is it to set up?
Really well. It's almost impossible to say this is how long this is going to take because it's set up. You know what I mean? Look at it this way. If it is an elaborate shot or if there's a big setup involved, you're going to add more time. If it's a romantic scene, you're going to add more time for the actors. If it's a pivotable scene in the story where the director is really focused on, add more time. You really can't get down to the minute, even though it's good to try to schedule to the minute because, 5 minutes is gold. Extra time is gold. So I always round up a little bit just to give yourself some cushioning room so that when all of a sudden you finish an hour early on a scene, you have an hour left in your day, you can bring in other scenes. It's a big deal. So keep in mind that you're factoring in setup, you're factoring in how long it's going to take to shoot. I mean, what if a director works really fast and always gets his scenes in 1 or 2 takes, but then you have another director who's like 8, 9, 16 takes, 32 takes. Gosh, if you work like a director like that, you're going to be on
130-day shoots, you know.
This scene. I mean, you put it in here. I'm just saying, for example, when you ask for background, usually they ask for background to be there 3 hours before.
Right.
So even if it takes you just 1 hour to shoot, it's a total of 4 hours. So in theory, would you put 4 hours or just 1 hour?
No. The call time you don't include because you have different crew members showing up at different times, right?
Okay, yes.
So
it's really just a scene here.
It's really just the scene, like how long it takes to get the scene ready, because people will get their hours before that.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's really just focused on the scene itself.
Okay.
Good question though, because sometimes that's not so clear. Like, well, wait a minute, we have people showing up at 6 a.m., but we're not going to start shooting until 10. You know, so you want to give it a little time though.
Okay, so but it's
Set up.
Focus on the scenes and the setup, and the rest is more practical.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, call time's different because you have crews building sets and stuff. You know. Okay, so let's just say this scene will take 4/8 of the page. I tab through, I go down to synopsis, and synopsis is just that. You're providing a synopsis of the scene. So if this were that scene where Will calls Christelle, I would write Will calls Christelle. And that's it. Try to keep your synopsis 6 words or less. This is a very, very, very helpful tip because, I mean, it does look like you have a lot of room there, and you could totally write a whole book. But when you look at your script and you have the synopsis on your script, if you have that much words, it's going to get cut off and it's going to be jumbled up and people aren't going to be able to read it. You know what I mean? So I always keep it 6 words or less. I mean, you don't have to, even if it is a very big scene, you can just describe it. Like if it's a car chase, you can write car chase, Vin Diesel. You know, that's it. Questions? Okay. All right. I'm going to script down to script pages. Now this is the page number of the script. Not that important. Scripts get rewritten while you're shooting sometimes. Scripts may not even be finished before you start shooting. Usually those films end up flopping. I mean, you've heard it. You've heard about it in the Hollywood horror stories. So yeah, script pages is literally just the page that it's on. So if it's on page 2, you write page 2. Script day, however, very important. Does anyone want to take a guess at what script day means? Yeah.
In the story.
No, it's okay.
No.
You're too fast, yeah?
In the story, let's say the story spans over a couple of days. So it's taken, and the daughter has been kidnapped and taken to Paris. So the first day of sex, second day of sex, it leaves New York and goes to Paris. So each day is a story day. So it's a script day.
Correct. Yeah, where are you in the story? Exactly. Very good. This is extremely important for continuity purposes and wardrobe. Wardrobe needs script days. Let's say day 1, you have taken, Liam Neeson is wearing a certain outfit. Later that evening, he might be changed. That's night 1. So you can get very granular with it. So if this is the opening scene, it's the very first time you're introduced to any characters in the film, that's day 1. You write D1 and then hit tab. And you'll notice day 1 becomes selectable again because you might have a flashback. You might have, like if it's a Tarantino film, you're showing, day 1 halfway through the film. You know what I mean? Like it might start with the end of the film and then, that's day 40, but then day 1 is halfway through. So it's extremely beneficial for wardrobe to have each outfit labeled day 1, night 1, day 2, night 2, if there is a costume change. If there is a wardrobe change between day and night, then you do N1 instead of D1. Otherwise, there's no need. But think about it this way. Walking Dead, you have Rick Grimes, right? He's wearing brand new day 1 clothes. His outfit's perfect, pristine. He's wearing the same outfit But day 30, it's like torn up, muddy, dirty. It's two completely different wardrobes. It's the same clothes, but it's, one version is clean and new, one version is old and worn. And the wardrobe will actually have two separate outfits for that. Because that show, they do flashbacks the entire season. So when they say flashback to before they were, the flashback to day one, where they did that with The Walking Dead, day one is telling them, oh, we have to take that day one wardrobe and put it on, right, and then shave him the right way. Cool.
Question, please. I missed that on how to populate a particular line, like D1. How do you populate it? Like, how do I make that?
By hitting tab or enter.
Oh yeah, just hit tab or enter on your keyboard. There you go. When you hear that beep, that means that you created it.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh,
I have seen people use the script date as like they'll write flashback 1986, 10 years earlier, something like that. It's great, it's descriptive, but wardrobe doesn't care. They just want to know, like if you have day one, then day two, then day three, you're introduced to these characters, and then all of a sudden the next day is a flashback, the next scene is a flashback, I would just call it day 4. Doesn't matter, they don't care. You know what I mean? They're just going to know that D4 is 1980s wardrobe. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. They're going to know in the script they marked day 4 as 1986, right? So that's, some people don't like to do that because they want to be specific. But for wardrobe, when they have that little tag on their clothes, they don't want to have to write flashback 1986, 10 years earlier. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like the script or the scene numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4. Day 1, 2, 3, 4. You just want to keep it very, how do I say it? Sequential order. Yeah. Okay. By the way, when we're creating, like we created the set, we created the day, any one of these items that has a drop-down menu, you're creating new items. So for unit, you're going to have first unit. They're always going to be there. You're going to have second unit, and you may have a weird production that has water unit. Now, does anyone know what unit means?
Usually the first is the one with the main director, saying that they require the main cast, and the second unit is usually more extra scenes that seem to be less important. Usually the script, or sometimes it also can be just a location thing.
Yep.
I just think about Game of Thrones, they're shooting everywhere in the world. So
Helicopter shots and stuff like that.
so.
Yep, exactly. Sometimes second unit is also used for action and stunts because they may have a stunt coordinator or director for just the stunts. Obviously, the director might still be there, but many times second unit will also double as action unit. You said it. Principal cast, principal crew, director, cinematographer. Second unit, they don't need to be there. So that's when I was kind of explaining for, like you said, location shots or establishing shots of exteriors. You might have your second unit shooting exteriors while at the same time they're doing scenes that are like really important to the story. Yeah. Cool. Sequence. So the intended use of sequence is to literally say, hey, this is part of a sequence. So if you were shooting a movie, like if you were shooting Fast and Furious 102 or whatever, and the whole movie is car chases, right? So you would write car chase number 1, who it is, what cars it is, right? If there's only one car chase, you can just write car chase in your script because everyone's going to know, oh, this is part of the car chase. In the storytelling sense or in an editing sense, they're putting multiple scenes together as a sequence, maybe like a montage, right? Think of Rocky. When he's working out, he's like punching beef, and then he's like running, and then he's at the top of the stairs. That's 3 locations at least. So you're not going to write workout montage as a set, because you can't do that. It's multiple sets. So you'd write, butcher shop.
If we are shooting a couple of things that happen to be part of a dream, it's in a dream sequence.
Dream sequence, exactly. Yep. You can label it dream sequence, and then everyone will know, hey, we're shooting a part of the dream sequence here today. It's kind of like a clue for everyone to be like, oh, this is part of the dream sequence. We might light it differently. Yeah. The other thing I've seen, like montages, dream sequences, flashbacks even, yep, because it kind of has that glowy, kind of dreamy feel to it. I've also seen people use sequence as just an area where they can write notes to people. They don't use it for sequence at all. The reason why people use this for many things is because they can have that show up on a strip. Because you don't need to put a sequence in there. A lot of these fields, if you don't need to put information in there, don't do it. Only provide what's necessary. Because all of this is going to be condensed. So many times people will say, like parking instructions, or bring your raincoats that day, it's going to rain, or something to like a specific department head. Like for, let's say if you do need to remind hair and makeup of something specific, or even though you put it over here in makeup and hair, but it's like an extra field for you to kind of relay information to the rest of the crew. That is not comments. Comments, you can do that, but the thing is those comments only show up on one report, unless you customize what shows up on the report. These comments are really for your reference. When you go back into scheduling, you can see comments that you wrote on this specific sheet. So sometimes comments might be confirm location or something like that, and sequence could be workout montage or car chase or bring your raincoat. Cool. All right. That brings us to location. Location is literally the physical address of where the shoot is. So if you're shooting at stage 21, you would write stage 21. If you're shooting at 2835 North Naomi Street, you would write 2835 North Naomi Street. Now, I kind of wanted to mention something about that location thing. You may not know the location. You know the set, you know what's going to be involved for this, from the script, you're going to need certain equipment there to achieve the scene, but you may not know where you're shooting it yet. They might still be trying to track down that location. So you might not put anything in there your first time around, and then you might write confirm location in comments. I'm just going to let you guys know right now, extremely important to be in direct contact with whoever's finding the locations, because as soon as all your locations are locked in, your schedule is going to fly. It's so hard, even with just one location missing, it's so hard to say, all right, I know exactly what I'm going to schedule this for, but then you have all these strips that are at a location that you don't know where it's shooting yet, so you don't know if you're going to put that first or last or in the middle. What if it's right next door to another location? You don't know. So as just a tip, try to get those locations locked in. If it's not technically your job, but it could be, depending on the level of production. But once locations are locked in, your schedule is going to fall together very easily. Makes sense, right?
Actually, as an example, I was working on a project, and we were unable to get the location early, right? We have where we're going to shoot the interiors mostly. We are renting an apartment, but the art department was still working on it, so we couldn't do that. So we said, let's do all of the exterior things. But your people's property, their government main roads, in places that we let to get permissions for, and they didn't come at the same time. So we realized that, for instance, you shoot here today, then later in the evening, they call, okay, yeah, we've got permission to shoot in that place, and it's just next door. And I actually got a trailer to move things there, and when I wrapped, I moved them back to the office. Now I need to hire the same trailer tomorrow morning to get things there. So So if only I knew that the location for the next day was just the other side street,
Yeah.
I would just dismiss the trailer and save the money for that transportation that they are saying.
Right. Oh.
Correct.
Yeah. I mean, you can save a lot of money. Transportation is extremely expensive. That's actually one of the biggest budgeted items for films, obviously besides labor, paying people. But, I mean, transportation 9 times out of 10 will cost more than building materials. It'll cost more than rentals. It'll cost more than craft services. Usually labor is number one, but transportation is a close second, just because you're paying for so much moving back and forth. If you don't have, like you said, if you don't have your locations locked down, you might end up spending double what you need. That's a perfect example. Thank you for sharing. Okay, cool. So, estimated time. We already talked about this. So if I'm going to say, this back and forth scene, it's going to take Will an hour and a half to shoot. So I'm going to write 1 hour in the first box and then 30 minutes in the second box. So those 2 boxes mean hours, minutes. Cool. All right. So that's our built-in categories. That's the top section here. And that's how you enter those elements. Any questions on any of those top built-in categories? So if you are importing, Final Draft will try to bring in your interior, exterior, set, day, night, eighths of a page, script page, and your cast members. That's all it brings in. But sometimes, if the writer did not use the program the way it was supposed to be used and formatted it properly, instead of interior and day-night coming in the way they should be, you have a set called interior Will's House Day. So it doesn't always import properly. And you still have to go through every sheet and fill in the rest of the info in all of these. So it gives you a little bit of a head start. You might say, I have, 80 strips. Okay, cool. But you still have to go through every single sheet. I recommend breaking down, like if you really want to get familiar with the program, break down on a short film, break down a short script yourself manually, and then you're going to really get a feel for the program. And then Final Draft might not be that hard for you to use. Cool? Okay, let's move down to our categories. So cast members. Quite simply, how to edit or enter a cast member. There, you can click on the word cast member and you see that little box that pops up. I always recommend is going as far right as possible and then clicking over here. There's no Will in cast members. Do you want to add? Yes, I hit enter again. And now I've just added Will as a cast member. And Christelle. I hit enter, and there we go. And Leslie. I hit enter. Did I spell your name right? And then, is it Topi? Enter. Pretty cool, huh? Easy to add cast members, right? Oh, and let's not forget Victor and Jose. Quite simply, that's how fast it is to add a cast member. Now, I'm going to point your attention to this icon up here that I want you to ignore for the rest of your career. Here's the reason why. This icon right here, right next to the red chain link, is called Element Quick Entry. It's not quick. We just did the fastest way to enter an element. What this is asking you to do is to create a cast member, we'd have to first type Dave, then select cast members, and then hit new. Why? Yeah, it's not quick at all. just come here and type Dave and hit enter. That's it. So yes, you can ignore that for the rest of your career. All right. So what I'll do, actually, it's technically just me if it's my side. So I would click the green check mark next to everyone who's not involved in the scene. Notice how all my cast members are still there, but Will is the only one with the green check mark because I'm the only one involved in that scene. Now this concept applies to every other one of these categories. So as I'm going through, I'm going to add background actors, stunts, vehicles, props, art department items, animals, animal wranglers. As you go through, all you have to do is on your next sheet, if you have the same tiger again in another scene, you just check the tiger off. That's it. It's pretty easy, right? I did want to talk about a couple other things. Cast members. SAG also is under the umbrella of SAG and AFTRA is also stunt doubles and stand-ins. Also the stunt coordinator. They're all considered cast members. So some people do create like a separate stand-in category, but the way that I've seen it done is because I don't want to write, let's say I write Will stunt double, it's going to alphabetize it right next to my name, but I want all my stunts down at the bottom. So what I do, and I'm just going to double click, that's how you edit an element. You just double click it, and I'm going to put a little X in front of that. So what it does is it puts it at the bottom. Well, Will's alphabetically last anyway. Let's say we have a stunt double for Victor. See how it puts it all down at the bottom? Just hope you don't have like a Xander or a Xavier or something like that. Also, I put X and then another X, and I put the stunt coordinator so that he is last. Do you see how that works? Cool. All right. Oh, if you also have a band, like a band in your film, they're also listed as cast members, each individually. Yep. Background actors. So let's say this scene calls for neighbors. Like I have neighbors out and about in the exterior. Let's say it's an exterior Will's home day. Background actors, I would write neighbors, and then I would do parentheses, and I'd write the number of neighbors extras I need. So parentheses 10. If you have a scene where it's only 5, then you would create a new element called neighbors and then parentheses 5. The program knows that that is a numerical value. So it knows that you need 10 extras that day. Does that make sense? Cool. The other thing you need to do is, if you have children, you're going to want to keep them separate. So if you have neighbors and there's 10 of them, but a couple of them are minors, you want to actually write children, like kids 5 or something like that. Because then you're going to have to budget for a studio teacher. And I know if you're doing like a union project, I believe it's for every 10 minors, you have to have 1 studio teacher, something like that. Or maybe it's 9. I think it's 10. Yeah. Okay, so I'm not going to go through every single one of these because we'll be here forever. But I do want to point out, for stunts, you're not writing stunt doubles because they're up here. You're writing literally what the stunt is. So if it's Will does a backflip, you write that. And then you write any equipment that's out of the ordinary, like net, harness, cables, stuff like that. Vehicles is picture vehicles only, meaning only on-screen vehicles. So like Will's vintage motorcycle. This does not include transportation. Transportation is completely different. You could actually do it as additional labor, or you could create a transportation category. Props. Does anyone know what constitutes a prop? What is a prop?
Something the actor used on set.
Yeah, something they hold. Yeah. So if I have a scene where I'm holding a marker, that is a prop. If there's a scene where there's a lamp in the background, it's not a prop. If I were to pick the lamp up and throw it, it becomes a prop. So with that being said, I'm going to point out a couple departments here. And well, first I'm going to kind of use your imagination. So let's say there's a scene where there's a lamp on that table, right? And there's a scene where it's just there. That's our department or set dressing. And then there's another scene where a cast member goes over and turns the lamp on. So it's a practical lamp. That means that it's actually wired and it's working. That would be the electrical department. And then there's that last scene where I pick it up and I throw it. That's a prop. So it's 3 lamps. So art department has a lamp, electrical department has a lamp, and then props has a lamp. Cool?
3 different lamps.
Yeah. 3 different lamps. I mean, the practical lamp could be used. The one that the electrical department has, that could totally just be the same lamp. There's, safety issues with having equipment on set wired up in case there's ever water used in a scene or anything like that. So they might just unhook the power to it. But the breakaway lamp, the one that breaks, they have to have a separate lamp for that because if they have to reshoot a scene, or maybe yeah, exactly, they're going to need more than one. And many times you may have multiple props of the same thing. Like you might have a samurai sword that's actually real so that they can actually have the real effect. You might have a fake one. You might have one that breaks. You might have one that's rusted. You know what I mean? So, and guns as well. Guns is a huge deal. You have to have a weapons expert on site. Guns is just very, very, you have to have like an armory. Even for fake ones. Especially because it still happens. People have died on set with blanks, or when they have fake ones and real ones on set, it's very scary because that happened to another actor. He thought he had the fake gun and he had the real gun. Like The Crow, that happened in The Crow where it was actually a blank. But the blank still shoots paper. Yeah, and they were playing with it and, practicing a scene, and the blank killed him. It was just that much pressure right there. So it's really silly, really stupid. But yeah, be very careful with that kind of stuff. Camera. You're not going to, if you're shooting on one camera, like if you're shooting on a 16 millimeter, RE-Flex camera, you're not going to write the same camera every day. The camera department knows to bring the camera that you're using every day, but if you have additional cameras that day for a scene that has camera 2 and camera 3, you would write camera 2, camera 3. Drones, drone operator, Steadicam operator, that kind of stuff. Anything that's out of or dolly track or dance floor, they should bring that. Speaking of grip, let's use this opportunity I'm going to show you guys how to add the category so we can kind of break the monotony of just talking. If you go up to Design and then go down to Category Manager, this will actually mimic what you have over here. So you see this Category Manager window. You see all your different categories. If you want to reorganize a category, you can, let's say I want to put special equipment closer to camera. You just highlight it and use these arrows here to move it around. The other thing I wanted to point out is if you want a new category altogether, you just click on the blank sheet of paper right there in the upper left-hand corner, and you can call that grip. And you'll notice it adds it all the way down at the bottom, and down here you can see it on your breakdown sheet. So if you have to add transportation or you want to add an electrical department or something like that, you can do that. And then to get the grip up by camera, you just simply, and there you go. Pretty easy, right? Any questions on that? Okay. Let's talk about a couple other things. Well, actually, I'll take this moment to ask you, do either of you have any questions about any of these categories, or is there anything you can think of that you don't see there? Like special effects, actually I'll point these three out. Special effects, mechanical effects, and visual effects. What do you think of when you think of visual effects? Like when you hear visual effects, what do you think of? Yeah, CG, stuff like that. Post-production. You may think, well, why do I need to schedule visual effects? You have to schedule the team, the coordinator, the VFX coordinator. They have to work with they have a crew. It's a real department. If you don't actually plan for that, post-production isn't going to be able to fix it. Fix it in post is a term that I loathe. Just because you have to plan for computer graphics. You have to plan for digital effects. Green screen even. If you don't light it right, it looks obvious that it's green screen. Motion capture, you know where they have the little dots on everyone and they're capturing their movement, like Lord of the Rings. That's a huge team that handles that. So yes, you're going to have to cue them in on that. The difference between that and special effects is physical effects. If there's an explosion or they're using actual gunpowder, or if there's like blanks for guns or blood bags, you know, the squibs that like kind of explode through your shirt, those, or fog, smoke, rain, those are special effects. Mechanical effects are kind of similar to special effects. Some people will use like those big wind fans. They'll say those are mechanical, even though it essentially is creating a special effect. Otherwise, mechanical effect could be like animatronics or hydraulics, anything that's literally mechanical. You don't see it on screen, but you see the effects of it. Special effects is things that you actually see on screen, like explosions and smoke, rain, stuff like that. Okay, so for animals, this is where you put kids. Just kidding, guys.
I agree.
You put Kid Wrangler under Animal Wrangler. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, tigers, you'd have a tiger wrangler, maybe more than one, you know. Makeup and hair. If your makeup and hair people don't do special effects makeup and hair, then you have to hire a new team, and you would create a new category called special effects makeup and hair. Yeah. But if and special effects makeup and hair is like cuts, bruises, black eye, bleeding, you know, scars. Makeup and hair is just to make them look camera ready. Trying to think if there's anything else. Music and sound. So there is a difference. Music does not mean soundtrack or score. It can mean soundtrack, but basically the music department is essentially producers to get the rights to music, to acquire the legal ability to use it. Sound, if let's say there's a scene where there's a song on a radio and the cast members are singing along with the song, and the song is a real song, like, I don't know, Michael Jackson or the Rolling Stones or something. The music department or producers would have to acquire the rights, and then the sound department would have to have the equipment there that day to play back the song. So there's a little politics in between those two categories, as well as there's some politics between like art department and you know, grips and stuff like that. Like depending on the level of production, you may have some like colliding departments, meaning well, they'll be like, well, I don't handle that, they handle it. And then you go to that department and they're like, no, I don't do it, they do. So it's many times it's actually outlined in their union contract what they handle and what they don't. If it's not, if there's a gray area, usually everything's pretty black and white, but if there is a gray area, it's kind of up to you, almost. And you don't just tell them to do it. I would work with their department head. special equipment is anything outside of those teams that you might have. So like a crane or like a jib arm or a water truck, stuff like that. Generators. And then these notes down here, those notes are something that everyone can see. All right. So one last second to take a look over these categories. Do you have any questions on any of these? Most of them are pretty self-explanatory. Cool? Good? All right. So let's move into actually scheduling. So, well, actually, no, we're going to do cleanup first. But I did forget our production info window. If you go back up to design and click on production info, this is where you name the picture. This is where you put the director down and stuff like that. Cool? I completely forgot to show you that.
What would production number be?
If it's a studio, they may have a specific number for that show. Sometimes people use that for like a phone number for the production office as well. I've seen that too. But usually it means, hey, this is our 5th production this year or something like that.
What is UP?
Unit Production Manager. They're the first person you see on when the credits roll. If you ever watch a movie and you see the credits, the first person to see is the unit production manager. They're kind of like, they're production manager. Kind of like the overall manager of production. Okay.
Sorry, one more.
Yeah.
MISC number 1.
Miscellaneous. It's just for anything. Yeah, these? Yeah, it just means miscellaneous, and you can use it for anything you want. It's like a free field. Yeah. So you could put a phone number, email address, you could put website, you could put whatever you want. Okay. Okay. So, what I'd like everyone to do, we're actually going to go into that cleanup portion where we're going to fix things. We're going to assign actors numbers for call sheets. They're called board IDs. We're going to fix sets, misspelling errors, and stuff like that. So what I'd like everyone to do is just close the one we've just been working in, and then hit open. It's going to ask you if you want to save that schedule we were just using. Just hit no. And then you're going to see, you will see a file that looks like this, training demo MMS6. Do you see that? Go ahead and open that up. Did you find it, Christoph? Oh. Yeah. Right there at the bottom.
Okay.
Perfect. No. Oh, wait. Oh, you're going to save. There we go. Cool. You good? All right. So if you guys take a look, this is like a really, it doesn't make sense. It's not a real script. But this is a demo we created. If you see, there's lots of actors. And if you click these arrows here, these just skip between the sheets. Also, if you need to create a new sheet, it's the first icon. Or you can just hit the arrow at the end and it'll move a new sheet. The no smoking sign is delete. I don't recommend deleting anything unless it's absolutely you don't need it and you're just redoing it. It's not an actual no smoking sign. It's just it's a pencil. Yeah, it's a little weird. So where we're going to go is we're going to go to Breakdown, Element Manager. Breakdown, Element Manager. Now I kind of wanted to point some stuff out to you. So the first thing we just got through is breakdown sheet. That's the number one thing to know for movie magic. Okay. One is breakdown sheet.